What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several tips to hopefully help you deal with third parties in Fortnite Chapter 7. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, comment down below if you've been struggling with third parties this season. I feel like every season that comes out, people say that it's like the most third party centric season ever. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you guys would like to use my code in the shop when getting anything, it is EvolveJake, just like my channel name is, and it is underneath the webcam at all times. So the first thing I'm just going to say is that this is going to be a part of the game. I feel like compared to other players, third parties kind of bother me less or frustrate me less because I've just kind of accepted that it is going to be always a part of the game. If you look at a Battle Royale, it's essentially a large free-for-all, right? In solos, you have 100 people, like 100 individuals. Duos, it's like 50 duos. Squads, it's 25 squads. Each of these are their own party, and then it's a free-for-all amongst them. So third parties are always going to be an aspect of the game, and it's going to be something that you need to be constantly thinking about whenever you're fighting, whenever you're thinking about fighting, whenever you're moving around. It is a constant thing that you need to keep in mind. A lot of players, I feel like, struggle because they tunnel vision way too much on the one person or the one team that they're fighting, and that is going to be the first tip. Like, you need to be able to fight and, you know, contribute to that fight and hopefully win that fight and play that fight well, while also considering other factors that are currently ongoing in the game. If you're way too tunnel vision on just the person you're fighting and you're not thinking about everything else that's going on around you or that could be going on around you, then you're probably going to find yourself getting third-partied a lot. This is especially true later on in the game, because the zone is much smaller, so obviously you're much more likely to get third-partied, and you typically can kind of predict and expect enemies to be in certain locations with that zone being so much smaller. Oftentimes, you get down to like a 1v1v1 in solos, or, you know, 3 duos and duos, 3 squads and squads, one party versus another party versus another party, right? And in that type of situation, the two that fight almost always end up getting third-partied by the other one. And that is something you need to keep in mind in those situations. It doesn't mean you can't always, you just can never fight in that situation. But just know you're probably going to get third-partied. And just knowing when you are or aren't going to get third-partied, or expecting it and kind of playing accordingly, will help you a lot in these situations. Another thing that's going to help you a lot is avoid fighting in really hot areas, areas that typically have a lot of traffic going through them. It's kind of hard to think of one just key central location this season, but I would say like Lethal Labs is often an area where a lot of people are kind of rotating to or through, just because it's like kind of the more central area of the map. And so if you are fighting in that area or on the mountains around that area, it's probably something that you need to keep in mind and think like, well, I'm probably going to get third-partied here. Is it worth engaging in this fight and, you know, eliminating this enemy, or should I just kind of get out of here before it becomes a problem? And then even if you do end up fighting and winning that fight, just, of course, keep it in the back of your mind that you're probably going to get third-partied. One of the things that will set you up most to get your game kind of ruined by a third party is taking too much damage in a fight. This makes you a very easy target for third parties, because if you win a fight, but you're only left with like, you know, less than 10 HP, a single AR shot could take you out. A single shot with pretty much anything can take you out. So if you're finding that in every fight you get in, you're barely surviving, you probably need to learn to play fights a little bit safer, or maybe work on your aim, your movement, things like that, so that you can win fights more cleanly. And this is going to be one of the main disadvantages of two very popular weapons this season, the dual hammer shotguns and the arc lightning gun. Both of these weapons can kill very fast up close, but they're also weapons where you typically kind of just trade damage with an enemy while you're using it, and so you might come out on top, but you are left very vulnerable afterwards. And if a third party does get involved, you're probably going to be going back to the lobby. And this is something that I think about a lot when I'm playing against enemies, because if I hear 2 players just trading damage with the dual hammer shotguns, you know that's going to be a fight where the person who wins it is probably really weak afterwards. And so it's going to be an easy third-party situation. I feel like using these weapons promotes a playstyle oftentimes that leads to you taking a lot of damage. And so if you find yourself constantly engaging in that, it can work and you can get wins that way, you can get kills that way, but it also might not be the most like consistent playstyle. And I'm not saying you can't use the dual hammer shotguns, but don't play every fight just, you know, so brainless that you're just trading damage with the enemy. Another thing that'll help you take less damage in your close range fights especially is going to be getting opening damage with your AR and then closing the gap and finishing with your shotgun. This is something I've talked about in so many different types of videos because it's such an important aspect of the game. People that just jump on enemies that are full HP typically have fights where you end up taking more damage, or that it's a more scuffed fight. But if you open the fight with early damage, not only is your opponent weaker, but you have pressure on them in the fight, and that pressure is going to make it easier for you to get the elimination. It's going to make it easier for you to get the elimination quickly, which is something we're going to talk about later on, and you're probably going to take less damage that way. And so you're not only is the fight safer, but if a third party does get involved, you're probably going to be in better fighting shape. And when you do finish a fight, you want to quickly check your surroundings to see if anybody is pushing you, and then quickly kind of get out of that area and reposition, especially if it's a bad area to be in, like an open area or low ground at the bottom of a mountain, something that makes you exposed and vulnerable already. Another thing that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to this is just spending way too much time looting. This is something that can cost you a lot because, again, people are going to hear fighting. They're going to flock to it and try to third party it. That's the nature of the game. You want to get that kill, you want to get out. If you're, spending way too much time looting and kind of deciding item by item what you want or what you do or don't want to take, that's something that will make you very exposed and probably get you sent back to the lobby. A lot of times, especially in the mid to late game, you probably know what you need. You might have a very good shotgun, but a low rarity AR. You might be lacking on heals. You might be lacking on mobility. And so if you already kind of know what you need when it comes to checking the enemy's loot, you should be able to just quickly decide, if you need any of that items and then go about your day. If you already have good weapons, but all you need is extra heals, just quickly take that enemy's heals if they have any, and then go about your day. You don't need to look at their AR. You don't need to look at their shotgun. You don't need to think about whether or not you want to swap it. All of these things are things that are going to get you eliminated. So be aware throughout the course of the game what maybe you need to upgrade in your inventory or what's worth upgrading in your inventory and what you're happy with when it comes to, looting. That way you can do it as quickly as possible. Also, having your fights last a really long time is something that can lead to you getting third-partied more, and sometimes there's not much you can do about this, but some long-range fights is where I think this is really problematic because it puts you in harm's way in several different ways. So let's say, for example, you have an opponent that's like 200 meters away on a mountain, and you're kind of shooting at them, they're shooting at you, but you know that you're probably not going to get this kill unless the opponent just stands out in the open and lets you kill them, right? You might want to get some damage, that way you can move up while, being somewhat uncontested or kind of alleviate some of the pressure that opponent has on you. But being in these incredibly long-range fights that you kind of know aren't really going anywhere is very bad because you're making noise. People around you are, going to hear that you're fighting and then come to third party it. But also you're probably going to be too tunnel visioned on that person that's really far away. You're going to be concentrating on them because they're far away. It might be hard for you to see them. And so not only are you fighting a fight that's worthless, but you're kind of making yourself get tunnel vision more. This is going to leave you very vulnerable to somebody sneaking up on you. So kind of know, what fights are worth taking and what fights you can actually win quickly and kind of act accordingly. And hopefully you'll get third party less. Over chasing is something that can also leave you very vulnerable. I definitely am guilty of this at times because I play pretty aggressive. And if somebody's running from me, I usually want to get that elimination. Again, there's players you get really weak. You might hit them 200 with your AR and then they crash pad away. That's probably a kill that you can get. That person is really weak. But if you've only hit them for like 1 or 2 shots and they're burning like 3 or 4 crash pads trying to get away, you might just want to let that person go. The same is going to be true of cars. If you have someone really weak and they get in the car, maybe you can blow it up and kill them. Or maybe the car is already weak as well. But if you've barely done anything to them and you've barely done anything to their car, sure, you maybe can blow the car up after a few mags of AR, but all that time, you're tunnel visioned on that person that isn't an imminent threat because they're running away from you. You don't have too much pressure on them anyway, so even if you do blow their car up, you're probably not going to get the kill. If they're running away with crash pads, even if you do hit a few shots, you're probably not going to get the kill. Knowing whether or not you should chase somebody is very important, and a lot of that will just come down to your resources, what you have to spend as far as like mobility goes, and also how much damage you got on the person. If you have them super one-shot, it definitely makes a little bit more sense to be fixated on getting that kill. If you haven't done as much damage or they're already pretty far away, probably want to let that go. The wingsuit will be another example of this. I love shooting people out of the sky with the wingsuit, but if they're already, pretty decently away from you, like you're not going to have much more time to shoot at them, and you've only hit like 2 or 3 shots, that's probably not a kill you're going to get. So just let that go. You're not investing the attention and resources and time you're investing into that kill probably isn't going to go your way, and it can backfire on you and get you third party. So not over chasing in these situations is something that, again, will help you a lot when it comes to limiting how much you get third partied when you do inevitably get third partied, because even if you do everything perfect, it will happen at times. As I said, it's just a part of the game. When you do get third partied, mobility items and cover items are going to be your saving grace, because these are going to be the two best things that you can kind of use to change the momentum of a fight, or change like how the fight is going. If it's mid-range, you know, you can throw down a bunker, and then now that opponent has to think about shooting your bunker out, they have to think about pushing you, you've alleviated some of that pressure. The same is true with bubbles, but obviously bunkers is more permanent. If you're in a bad spot and you shockwave away or crash pad away, you've changed where you are, and maybe you get lost by that enemy that was trying to third party you. Maybe they chase and you have an opening on them to get damage, but just trying to sprint away or trying to walk away is often something that's not going to go your way. So having these mobility items and cover items is essential when it comes to dealing with third parties. That's why I like carrying both of them. A lot of times what will happen is when you finished your fight and you're getting third partied, you'll probably be put in a situation where you're going to need to reset the fight. You're probably going to use some mobility, and the person third partying is going to try to chase you. And what a lot of players do when trying to reset fights, I have entire videos about this that is just more specific because it's its own topic. But what you want to do when trying to run away or reset a fight is get to some sort of cover, potentially heal if you have time, but also get shots on the opponent. Because what a lot of players do is they just try to run and run and run because they're scared and they're panicking, and they don't ever shoot back at the enemy. And that's often going to create a situation where you're just going to use all your mobility and die if that opponent is committed enough to chasing you and has mobility. And that's why I said, like, if you get lost, that's great. If you know that, like, they probably didn't see where you went, perfect. But a lot of times they're pushing you, you know they're pushing you, and that fight is going to happen. And when you have somebody pushing at you like that, you have them in a somewhat vulnerable state, but a lot of players don't really recognize that because of the pressure that is already built up in the fight. Like maybe they're weak, they think that opponent is confident. You getting to some sort of cover, looking back and getting AR tags on the enemy will often discourage them from pushing you or make the fight more winnable if they do push you. So when you're resetting fights or trying to get away, look for those opportunities to actually turn the fight rather than just fully running away. Again, there's times running will work, and that's great, but a lot of times it won't, and you need to know how to turn fights. And that is the core of the game. With third parties, you can limit how much it happens, but at the end of the day, you need to know how to respond to it, and that is often going to be with your cover items, with your mobility, and being able to reset the situation. If you're getting third partied, you're in a bad situation. The person third partying typically has an advantage, and so having these other items and playing off them correctly is pretty much the only thing you can do in those situations. And that's why they are such sought after important items in Zero Build. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.